Real Country 1430 AM and 1073 FM WRDN. I'm Brian Winnekins. Happy June Dairy Month on this Wednesday. We continue our spotlight of Mar Bec Dairy off of Highway Double N in Mondovi. They are this year's host of the Buffalo County Dairy Breakfast this Saturday starting at 7. And thank you to Dairy Farmers of Wisconsin for supporting our spotlights this morning. Well, we're going to change from the cows to the milk and how Mar Bec Dairy keeps that milk safe for you. It's Jonathan. I know when I talked with Randy a little bit, Randy Kohler, and when I've talked with other dairy farmers, the simplest thing that dairy farmers do to protect the milk for everybody is you guys do a lot of cleaning. It seems like that's all you do is clean.
Yeah, hygiene is a very important thing when you're trying to keep the food quality safe. And once again, not to harp on how we've been going this week, Randy, but when we talk about it, Brian, I'm sorry, is we have a lot of outside consultants that help us make sure that we are keeping up on hygiene. So we use Advanced Dairy, and they come down and we do a wash-up check just on the parlor every other week just to make sure everything is washing correctly.
And so it's almost like a mini inspection.
Yeah, so they'll come down and make sure that the pipeline is clean. There's times we have taken a camera up the pipelines to make sure that there is nothing inside that pipeline but clean stainless steel.
So the first thing that when the cows are coming in, does the folks in the parlor, do they kind of do a once over with the cows? How do they make sure that, there's a cow that's coming in that isn't acting right? Maybe we better not milk that cow today, or at least separate that one out. How do they determine that?
Yeah, so one of the biggest things in training here is the parlor. And I can't give enough credit to my guys that actually run the parlor because they are the heart of this whole operation. And people can discover that when they come down to the dairy breakfast. It's just how important the parlor center is to the whole setup here. But the guys in the parlor have to be very observant, and they take great care in what they're doing, from making sure that they wipe off teats correctly because we don't want any bedding to end up in the milk supply, to making sure that the quarters look normal. They're not large, they're not hard. They all look in good shape. They are clean before they put units on, that they take the first 3 squirtings of milk out of each quarter to make sure that the milk does not look abnormal, that it all looks correct. And then they attach the unit and then they go from there.
So that those milking units, do they have to clean those between each cow that comes into the parlor?
So not between each cow, but we do between each shift. So every 8 hours, the whole parlor goes into a hot water wash and detergent and acid. But in between groups, even here, we will rinse off units, and then we will dip them in what is an iodine-based product to make sure that the units are sterile before starting the next group.
Talking with Jonathan Halleck with Mar Bec Dairy, and they are the host of this year's Buffalo County Dairy Breakfast. I know I have a lot of folks that have always asked me, how do you properly set that machine to make sure that the milkers will stop milking when there's no more milk left, or you don't want it to take too much?
Yeah, so that's been an interesting conversation all the time. Is one thing about having consultants is they always bring up how your parlor is running in comparison to everybody else. And those units are very specific on what they are looking for. We won't have them by the dairy breakfast, but actually we are updating our parlor this summer. So it's a funny time that you bring up that conversation. Our units are almost 10 years old and it's time for new technology. Everything has been moving quickly, as everybody else knows in technology, and so are parlors. But pretty soon we will have consistent milk yields and how fast milk is coming out of a cow, and then it'll pull off at each individual cow specifically for her when she is done milking.
Wow. Okay. So it's going to almost be custom.
Yeah, it'll be custom, and then I will get all the data in a computer, and I can make sure that every cow is having a good time in the parlor and where her milk yield is, and if it differs, so that I know if something is up with her.
Talking with Jonathan Halleck with Mar Bec Dairy this morning. So before the milk even goes on the truck, how do you keep it from going bad? What are some of the things the farm does to keep that? Because you have to keep it cool to 38 degrees. So how do you do that? You have just a big refrigerated tank that runs, or how do you cool that milk down?
Yeah, so when you have this many cows and you've got 32 units running at any time, it takes a lot to get milk chilled, doesn't it? So to save on energy, we actually have a plate cooler. So we take milk and it comes to the receiver jar, and from there it goes through a plate cooler. And the plate cooler basically works on the system of it takes well water temperature and it runs milk on separate stainless steel plates so that the milk and water never contaminate each other, and it cools the milk all the way down to 52 degrees within the first 30 seconds there. From there, it goes to our milk tank, and the milk tank is run on 2 compressors that manage to cool the milk from 52 to 40 to /38 within the next hour.
Wow. Okay. And then when that milk truck comes, do they do some testing too?
Yeah, so the milk hauler has a very specific job when he comes here. He's not just here to pick up milk, he's here to make sure that that milk is quality and that it is clean before he actually takes it. So his job first is to check what's the temperature of the tank. Is the milk cool? Then to look inside the tank. Does the milk look correct? Does it smell funky? And if it doesn't and that all tests good, then he even runs an antibiotic test before he takes it and puts it in his truck. And so that milk has been checked by my people at the front line, by the milkman before it goes on the truck, and then it'll be checked again at the creamery before it's added to the vat.
We are talking with Jonathan Halleck with Mar Bec Dairy. They're the host of this year's Buffalo County Dairy Breakfast this Saturday starting at 7. Thank you to Dairy Farmers of Wisconsin. Tomorrow morning, we're going to talk about how the farm protects the land that they grow crops on and all of that water that they use and the groundwater too. We'll find out more about that tomorrow morning. You're listening